Not every battle needs fighting, and certainly not every person deserves a seat at the table of your mind. The difference between those who move forward in life and those who remain stuck often comes down to one thing: boundaries. Those who grow learn to say no, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. They understand that if they give their time to every distraction, they'll have none left for their own progress. If they say yes to every demand, they'll say no to their own purpose. If they spend all their energy on things that drain them, they'll have nothing left for the things that fulfill them. And here's the powerful realization setting: boundaries isn't about keeping people out. It's about protecting what matters most. It's about deciding what deserves priority, who deserves proximity, and where energy is best invested. Because time is not something a person can get back. Once it's spent, it's gone. And those who understand this treat their energy like currency. They invest it wisely. They don't allow toxic relationships, meaningless arguments, or unnecessary obligations to drain them. Growth shows up when a person stops feeling guilty for choosing peace over chaos, purpose over distraction, self-respect over pleasing others. Growth is recognizing that saying no to the wrong things means saying yes to the right things. It's realizing that distance from negativity is not avoidance, it's self-care. And that when energy is protected, when priorities are clear, life starts moving in the right direction. The moment a person understands this, everything changes. They start to see that they don't have to explain their boundaries. They don't have to defend their decisions to protect their peace. They don't have to apologize for choosing what's best for them. They simply walk forward with clarity, knowing that every time they say no to distractions, they say yes to growth. Every time they refuse to be pulled into unnecessary drama, they step into a new level of freedom. And every time they protect their energy, they accelerate their journey faster than they ever thought possible. There was a time when approval seemed important, a time when every decision came with a silent question: what will they think? A time when the fear of judgment was louder than the desire for progress. It's natural. Everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants to be accepted. But somewhere along the way, something changes. A realization appears. Living for the approval of others is the fastest way to lose yourself. It happens slowly at first. A person starts making choices that feel right to them, but someone disagrees, so they shrink back. They start pursuing something meaningful, but someone criticizes, so they hesitate. They feel excited about a new direction, but someone questions it, so they second-guess themselves. And before they know it, they're no longer living for themselves. They're living to fit into someone else's expectations. Then one day, something shifts. They begin to see the pattern. They realize that no matter what they do, there will always be opinions. Some will praise, some will doubt, some will misunderstand. And that's when they make a powerful decision to trust themselves, to walk their own path, to stop adjusting their life to fit the comfort of others. And something amazing happens. The moment they stop seeking approval, they start gaining confidence. The moment they stop worrying about being liked, they start feeling free. The weight of opinions no longer controls their direction. They no longer need permission to follow their own dreams. They no longer hold back just because someone might not understand. Because the truth is, no matter what path is taken, there will always be those who disagree. There will always be those who don't see the vision. There will always be those who think it can't be done. But the people who go far in life are the ones who keep going anyway. The ones who listen to their own voice more than the noise around them. The ones who understand that true confidence isn't about being liked, it's about being certain in who you are. And here's the best part. The more a person walks their own path, the more the right people start appearing. The ones who respect the journey. The ones who encourage growth. The ones who understand the vision. Because when a person stands firm in who they are, they attract others who are doing the same. The fear of what others think begins to fade. The desire to fit in gets replaced by the desire to grow. And with every step taken in alignment with personal truth, life begins to move forward faster than ever imagined. There was a time when every failure felt final, a time when a mistake felt like proof of inadequacy, a time when setbacks seemed like roadblocks instead of stepping stones. It's easy to feel that way. It's easy to take failure personally, to see it as a sign to stop, to let disappointment turn into doubt. But then something happens. A shift takes place. A person begins to see failure differently, not as a reason to quit, but as a necessary part of growth. Every successful person, every high achiever, Every leader has one thing in common: they have failed, and they have failed often. They have made mistakes, taken wrong turns, miscalculated, fallen short, but instead of letting failure define them, they used it to refine them. Instead of seeing failure as the end, they saw it as a lesson. Instead of running from it, they studied it. They asked, what can I learn? What can I adjust? How can I improve? That is the mindset shift that changes everything. The moment a person stops fearing failure and starts learning from it, they step into a whole new level of growth. They realize that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. It's a teacher, a guide, a tool that shapes and sharpens. And once this realization takes hold, confidence begins to grow, because there's no longer a fear of making mistakes, only a determination to learn from them. And here's what's interesting. The more a person embraces failure, the faster they progress. Because while others hesitate, fearing the pain of getting it wrong, they take action. While others wait for the perfect plan, afraid to fail, they move forward, knowing that every misstep brings them closer to mastery. While others let failure break their spirit, they use it to build resilience. Most people never reach their full potential, not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they fear failure too much to try. They stay in their comfort zones, avoiding risks, avoiding challenges, avoiding anything that might expose them to struggle. And in doing so, they rob themselves of the very experiences that lead to greatness. But the ones who grow, the ones who rise, the ones who build something meaningful, those are the ones who are willing to fail forward. They understand that every failure carries a lesson, every setback holds wisdom, and every mistake brings an opportunity to get better. And because of that, they don't slow down. They don't back away. They keep moving, knowing that failure is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that they are on the right path. And when a person embraces this truth, something incredible happens. Fear loses its grip. Doubt begins to fade. And suddenly they find themselves progressing, improving, achieving faster than they ever thought possible. There was a time when distractions ruled the day, a time when every little thing pulled attention in different directions, a time when a task would start but never finish, when focus was scattered, when progress felt slow. It's a common struggle. The world is full of noise, full of interruptions, full of temptations that pull people away from what truly matters. But then something happens. A shift takes place. A person begins to realize that scattered energy leads to scattered results. They see that every moment spent on distractions is a moment stolen from progress. And so they start making a change. They start becoming intentional with their focus. They start prioritizing what moves them forward instead of what merely keeps them busy. And this is where real growth begins. Because success isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. It's about being fully present in the task at hand. It's about cutting out the noise, eliminating the unnecessary, and devoting energy to the things that bring real results. Most people never realize how much time they waste. They say they're working on their dreams, but they spend hours scrolling, hours jumping from one task to another, hours caught up in things that don't add value to their lives. And then they wonder why progress feels slow, why they feel overwhelmed, why nothing ever seems to change. But the ones who grow, the ones who move forward, they develop a different habit. They train themselves to focus deeply. They learn to shut out distractions. They don't just work hard, they work with intention. They give their full attention to the present moment because they understand that the more focused the effort, the faster the results. And something amazing happens when a person starts living this way. Productivity skyrockets, progress speeds up. What once took days now takes hours. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. And most importantly, the feeling of being stuck disappears because now every action taken has purpose. Every moment is spent wisely. Every day brings real, tangible results. And here's the key focus is a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. The more a person disciplines themselves to stay present, to avoid distractions, to give full attention to what matters, the easier it becomes. It no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes second nature. And once that happens, life begins to accelerate. Because the truth is, success isn't just about talent. It's about concentration. It's about the ability to channel energy into what truly matters. It's about developing the kind of focus that cuts through distractions, that gets things done, that moves life forward. And when a person masters this, they realize they've been growing all along faster than they ever imagined. There was a time when emotions controlled everything, a time when one bad moment could ruin an entire day, a time when frustration, doubt, or disappointment dictated the direction of thoughts and actions. It's easy to live that way. It's easy to let circumstances determine attitude, to let unexpected challenges steal peace, to let setbacks create hesitation. But then something happens. A shift takes place. A person begins to realize that emotions are powerful, but they don't have to be in charge. They see that waiting to feel good before taking action is a losing game. They understand that discipline must come before motivation, that commitment must come before comfort. And with that understanding, everything changes. Most people go through life reacting. If the day starts well, they feel good. If something goes wrong, they shut down. They let the external world dictate their internal state. They believe that emotions are facts, that if they feel unmotivated, they must wait until motivation returns. But the ones who grow, the ones who move forward, they take a different approach. They learn to lead their emotions instead of being led by them. They recognize that feelings are temporary, but actions create lasting change. And here's where the real transformation happens. The moment a person stops relying on emotions to make decisions, they become unstoppable. They no longer need to feel like working to get to work. They no longer need to feel confident to take action. They no longer wait for the perfect mood to do what needs to be done. They just do it. And because of that, results come faster. Progress happens more consistently. Success becomes inevitable. Because here's the truth, some days will feel great and some days won't. Some mornings will bring excitement and some will bring resistance. But the ones who grow, the ones who succeed, they don't wait for a perfect mood. They train themselves to push forward no matter how they feel. They develop the discipline to show up every day, to take action whether they feel like it or not. And something incredible happens when a person starts living this way. The emotions that once controlled them begin to fade into the background. Instead of letting moods dictate actions, they let actions dictate moods. They find that energy comes from movement, not the other way around. That confidence comes from taking action, not from waiting for the right feeling. And once this mindset takes hold, everything accelerates. Progress speeds up. Growth becomes consistent. What once felt like an emotional roller coaster becomes a steady climb to success. Because now decisions are based on commitment, not fleeting emotions. And the moment a person masters this, they realize they've been growing all along faster than they ever thought possible. There was a time when conversations were just conversations, a time when words were exchanged without much thought, when the people around seemed ordinary, when influence wasn't something to be considered. It's easy to overlook the power of an environment. It's easy to believe that relationships are just part of life, that who a person spends time with doesn't really shape their future. But then something happens. A shift takes place. A person starts paying attention. They start noticing how the company they keep affects their thoughts, their habits, their mindset. And with that awareness, everything begins to change. It starts as a quiet realization. Some conversations are uplifting, full of ideas, full of encouragement, full of energy. Others are draining, full of complaints, full of doubt, full of negativity. Some people inspire action. Others justify inaction. Some challenge growth. Others enable comfort. And suddenly it becomes clear who a person spends time with is shaping who they are becoming. The difference between those who rise and those who remain the same is often found in their circle. The ones who grow surround themselves with people who challenge them, who push them forward, who hold them accountable to their potential. The ones who struggle surround themselves with people who keep them stuck, who feed their doubts, who make excuses feel acceptable. And here's where the real transformation happens. The moment a person starts choosing their environment with intention, their life begins to shift. They seek out mentors instead of distractions. They surround themselves with people who make them think bigger, not settle for less. They engage in conversations that fuel ambition instead of drain enthusiasm. And the more they do this, the more they realize something powerful. Growth isn't just about what they do, it's about who they allow to influence them. Most people don't realize how much their environment affects them They assume that as long as they work hard, they'll succeed. But the ones who truly grow understand that success isn't just about effort, it's about exposure. It's about being in the right rooms, around the right people, in conversations that expand possibilities instead of shrink them. And something amazing happens when this shift takes place. Goals start to feel more achievable. Ideas start to flow with more clarity. Challenges start to feel like stepping stones instead of roadblocks. Because now, instead of fighting against an environment that holds them back, they're being lifted by one that pushes them forward. And once a person experiences this, there's no going back. They become intentional with every connection. They choose growth over comfort, wisdom over noise, progress over stagnation. And with every new relationship that fuels their vision, with every conversation that elevates their thinking, with every decision to surround themselves with people who inspire, they begin to move faster than they ever thought possible. There was a time when patience felt like a weakness, a time when results were expected overnight, when effort was supposed to bring instant rewards, when anything that took too long felt frustrating. It's easy to think that way. It's easy to want quick success, to believe that if something doesn't happen fast, it's not working. But then something happens. A shift takes place. A person begins to understand that real success, real growth, real transformation, it all takes time. At first, the waiting feels unbearable. The effort feels unnoticed. The progress feels too slow. Doubt creeps in. Thoughts of quitting become tempting. But then a realization appears every great achievement is built on patience. Every meaningful result comes from consistent effort over time. And those who understand this, those who embrace the process instead of fighting against it, are the ones who go the farthest. Most people quit too soon. They plant the seeds, but don't wait for them to grow. They take the first few steps, but stop when the road feels too long. They do the right things, but lose faith before they see results. But the ones who grow, the ones who succeed, they develop a different mindset. They learn to trust the process. They understand that just because they can't see the results yet doesn't mean the work isn't paying off. And here's where real transformation happens. The moment a person stops expecting instant success and starts valuing steady progress, everything changes. Frustration turns into faith. Impatience turns into persistence. Doubt turns into confidence. Because now every small step forward is seen as a victory. Every effort is recognized as part of something bigger. Every challenge is understood as a necessary part of the journey. And something amazing happens when a person starts living this way. They no longer feel the need to rush. They no longer get discouraged by slow progress. They no longer feel defeated when results don't come immediately. Instead, they stay consistent. They keep improving. They keep learning. They keep moving forward, knowing that as long as they don't stop, success is inevitable. Most people underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. They want change in a week. They want success in a month. They want results overnight. But the ones who achieve great things are the ones who understand that growth is not about speed, it's about consistency. They know that the most powerful results are not seen in days, but in years. And because of that, they don't give up. They don't back down. They don't quit just because the process takes time. And once this mindset takes hold, life begins to accelerate. Success stops feeling like a distant dream and starts becoming a daily reality. Because now, every action is fueled by trust. Every effort is backed by patience. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. And when a person embraces this truth, they realize they've been growing all along faster than they ever thought possible. There comes a moment when everything starts to make sense. A moment when the small signs of growth, once overlooked, now stand out. A moment when a person realizes they are not the same as they once were. The way they think has changed, the way they react has changed, the way they move through life has changed. And with that realization comes something powerful, a deep understanding that progress was happening all along. It's easy to miss growth when it's happening in real time. It's easy to focus on what's still left to accomplish instead of recognizing how far one has come. But growth isn't always loud. It isn't always obvious. My friends, growth is a funny thing. It doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always make a big entrance. It happens in the moments when you think nothing is changing, It happens when you're putting in the work day in and day out and wondering if you're even moving forward. But let me tell you something, you are growing faster than you realize. And today I want to share with you 7 signs that prove you are becoming a stronger, wiser, and more powerful version of yourself. There comes a time in life when you realize something profound control over your emotions is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. You see, most people go through life reacting. Something happens and they explode. Someone says something they don't like and they lash out. A small inconvenience and their whole day is ruined. They let circumstances dictate their mood, their attitude, their energy. But not you, not anymore. Somewhere along the way, you started to change, you started to pause, you started to think before you spoke, you started to analyze before you acted. And that, my friend, is a remarkable sign of growth. Because life will always test you. It'll bring challenges. It'll bring unexpected situations. It will bring people who push your buttons, who try to drag you into their chaos, but you've learned the secret. You don't have to participate. You've learned that power doesn't come from reacting. It comes from responding with wisdom. It comes from choosing your battles. It comes from recognizing that not every comment deserves a reply, not every argument is worth engaging in, and not every challenge requires an emotional reaction. You've discovered that by controlling your emotions, you remain in control of your life. Think back to a time when you would have let anger take over, when frustration would have ruined your day. Now you handle things differently. You breathe, you think. You remind yourself that your energy is valuable and shouldn't be wasted on things that don't serve you. That is the mark of someone who is growing. That is the mark of someone who is becoming more than they were yesterday. It's not that problems disappear, they never do. It's that your relationship with them changes. You've developed the ability to remain calm in situations that used to shake you. You've built the discipline to listen instead of immediately react. You've strengthened the mindset that allows you to focus on what truly matters instead of getting lost in distractions. And here's the real beauty of it. The more you practice this, the more power you gain. People will notice it. They'll see that you're not so easily moved, not so easily thrown off course. And that kind of composure, that kind of inner peace is something rare. It's something that turns obstacles into stepping stones, challenges into lessons, and setbacks into setups for something greater. So when you find yourself in a difficult situation, when emotions start to rise, remember who you are becoming. Remember the progress you've made. Because every time you choose to respond with wisdom instead of react with emotion, you prove that you are not the same person you used to be. You prove that you are growing faster than you think. There's a shift that happens in a person's life when they decide to take responsibility, not just for their successes, but for their challenges, not just for their victories, but for the obstacles along the way. Because the truth is, life is going to present difficulties. Things won't always go according to plan. Problems will show up uninvited, and setbacks will test your resolve. Most people, when faced with a problem, look for someone or something to blame. They point fingers, they complain. They list all the reasons why things are unfair, why it's too hard, why it can't be done, and in doing so, they give away their power. Because every time a person says, this isn't my fault, this isn't my responsibility, what they're really saying is, I have no control over my future. But then, something changes. A person wakes up one day and realizes they don't have to live that way. They don't have to wait for circumstances to improve before they take action. They don't have to wait for the perfect conditions before they move forward. They start to see that complaining doesn't fix problems, solutions do. And from that moment on, their entire approach to life is different. They stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do about it? They stop making excuses and start making adjustments. Instead of focusing on the problem, they focus on the solution. And that shift, that simple shift, changes everything. Because problems don't go away when you complain. They don't disappear when you feel sorry for yourself. But the moment you take action, the moment you decide to work with what you have, everything starts to move in a different direction. Obstacles become challenges to overcome, not reasons to quit. Setbacks become lessons, not defeats. Instead of being stuck, you become resourceful. Instead of waiting, you start creating. And here's the best part: this kind of thinking builds confidence. The more you practice it, the stronger you become. You start to realize that no matter what life throws at you, you have the ability to figure it out. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need guarantees. You just need the mindset that says, I will find a way. Because the truth is, the people who win in life are not the ones with no problems. They are the ones who refuse to let problems stop them. They understand that success isn't about avoiding difficulties, it's about developing the ability to overcome them. And the moment you stop complaining, stop making excuses, and start focusing on solutions, that's the moment you step into a whole new level of growth. That's the moment you begin to move forward faster than you ever thought possible. There comes a time in every person's life when they stand at a crossroads. One path is familiar. It's the road of hesitation, of second guessing, of staying within the boundaries of what feels safe. It's the path of letting fear be the deciding factor. The other path is different. It's uncertain. It requires stepping into the unknown, taking action before everything feels perfect, moving forward even when doubt whispers in the background. Fear has a way of disguising itself as logic. It convinces a person to wait. It says, let's think about this a little longer. Let's prepare a little more. Let's wait until the time is just right. And so they wait. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect confidence. But here's the truth: perfection never arrives. The perfect moment never comes. There's always a reason to hesitate. And so a person who listens to fear finds themselves stuck, watching opportunities pass by, watching time slip away, wondering why things never seem to change. But then something shifts. A realization takes place. A person wakes up one day and decides that fear will no longer make their decisions for them. They stop waiting for confidence and start acting in spite of uncertainty. They stop waiting for permission and start taking responsibility. They start to understand that growth only happens when they step into the unfamiliar, when they push beyond their comfort zone, when they take a leap even before they feel ready. And something interesting happens when a person does this. The fear that once seemed so overwhelming begins to shrink. What once felt impossible starts to feel within reach. Not because the fear disappears, but because they've proven to themselves that they can move forward anyway. They've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision that fear will not win. Every successful person has faced moments of doubt. Every great leader, every high achiever, every person who has ever accomplished something worthwhile has felt fear knocking at their door. The difference is they didn't let it stop them. They didn't let the discomfort of the unknown keep them from stepping forward. And that right there is a sign of growth. Because the moment a person stops letting fear be the master of their decisions, they step into a whole new world of possibilities. They begin to see that most of the limits they once believed in were never real. They were just walls built by fear, and walls can be torn down. And when that happens, when a person starts taking action despite the uncertainty, despite the discomfort, they begin to move at a pace they never thought possible. The road ahead will always have challenges. There will always be moments of hesitation. But the ones who keep moving, the ones who refuse to let fear hold the pen that writes their story, those are the ones who grow, who rise, who achieve, who live a life of no regrets. Because they understand that fear is not a stop sign, it's just a test to see if they're ready for the next level. And the moment they decide to push through, they realize they've been growing all along faster than they ever imagined. There comes a point in life when a person realizes that not everything deserves their time, their energy, or their attention. In the early years, it's easy to say yes to everything. It's easy to give, to allow people to pull in every direction, to feel obligated to meet every demand. But over time, something becomes clear: energy is a limited resource. And how a person spends it determines the quality of their life. There was a time when saying yes felt necessary. Agreeing to every request, taking on every responsibility, answering every call, engaging in every conversation, it all seemed like the right thing to do. But then frustration set in. Exhaustion became normal. Resentment started creeping in. And that's when the lesson appeared. Not everything is worthy of access. Not every invitation needs acceptance. Sometimes it happens in the quiet moments when a challenge is faced with confidence instead of fear, when a setback doesn't lead to quitting, when a distraction is ignored in favor of something greater. And this is the key. Growth isn't about dramatic overnight transformations. It's about the small, consistent shifts. It's about thinking differently, choosing differently, acting differently. It's about moving with more purpose, more discipline, more wisdom. And the ones who realize this are the ones who keep going. They no longer measure progress by instant results. They measure it by who they are becoming. And something incredible happens when this awareness takes hold. Doubt begins to fade. Frustration loses its grip. The need for approval disappears. The weight of failure becomes lighter because now there's a deep trust in the process, a deep belief that every effort counts, a deep understanding that as long as the journey continues, success is inevitable. Most people never take the time to recognize their own growth. They spend so much time looking ahead that they forget to appreciate how much they've already changed. But the ones who truly grow, the ones who truly succeed, they take a moment to acknowledge the progress. Not to stop, not to slow down, but to remind themselves that they are on the right path, that they are moving forward, that they are growing faster than they ever imagined. My friend, you are growing. Even on the days you feel stuck, even in the moments when progress seems slow, trust me, you are moving forward. Growth isn't always loud. It isn't always obvious. But if you recognize even one of these signs in yourself, know this: you are transforming. You are becoming the person you were meant to be. So keep going, keep pushing, keep believing, because one day you'll look back and realize you were never stuck. You were just in the middle of your breakthrough. Now go out there and keep growing. The world needs you.